Let's put together a program that will stay on the table like we've done before, but also seek and destroy. So let's start out with a flow block because we know that we want this program to run indefinitely. So we're going to throw a loop up there first, and it's set for unlimited, so it'll always run. Then we're going to build a series of switches inside of switches like we've done before. So I'm going to take a switch and throw it in here. And in this case, I'm going to say that I want this to be watching the light sensor, which is also known as the color sensor, but we're going to set it to not read the color, but compare the reflected light intensity. And so we want it when it is set to see the white line, so not less than, but switch this to be greater than. And let's say 50 is probably a pretty good number usually, or we could lower that a little bit and say 20 so it triggers a little bit earlier, since the black line is almost always in the 5 or 10 or something like that, and that white line is usually pretty bright. Okay, so if it sees that white line, that's what's going to happen up here, then we want it to stop, back up, and stay on the table. So we need to give ourselves some actions. I'm going to come up here, I'm going to say stop first, and then I'm going to throw in another block up here that says to back up. Alright, so we're going to go on for just rotations, and I'm going to put in my negative 30 value in here, make it negative 30. So it backs up, and one rotation is probably good enough, might not even need that much, so I'm going to make it 0.75. Okay, and then once it backs up, then we're going to have it do a turn. So I'm going to throw one more block up here and just do a simple turn of rotations. So this one here, I'm going to set this to negative 30 and this one to positive 30. And of course you can play with that. You could be more advanced if you wanted to and have it be randomized so it didn't always turn the same amount. But that's what it's going to do when it sees the white line. Alright, getting ready to go off the table. One other thing to make sure you always check is that you have your sensor port plugged into the right place, or that you have it plugged in and this number is matching the other number. Okay, so if it's not seeing the white line, then it's going to do what's down here. So what we want it to do is to check for another sensor. So we're going to put in another switch up here. And this time it's not going to be the touch sensor or the light sensor, but we want it to check the sonar ultrasonic sensor for something in distance away, centimeters. Let's say something that is less than 50 centimeters. That's probably about good. Let's drop that down to say maybe 40 centimeters. So if something is closer than 40 centimeters, what do we want it to do? That goes up here. And if something is not closer than 40 centimeters, that's what we want it to do down here. So for starters, let's take a look at if it doesn't, if it's not going off of the table, that means it's on black, and it doesn't see anything in front of it, then we want it to just go forward or do a turn looking for something. So I'm going to throw in my block here, and I'm going to have it just on, but I'm going to have it do a slow kind of a turn. So a minus 20 and a positive 20. We'll see how that works for us. So it's just going to sit there and turn if it doesn't see anything that way. But if it does see something, then we want it to attack it. So we're going to put in here our block to go motors on at 100 power and just ram after something. Now remember, it's always going to be checking for the white line every time it runs this loop. So it'll check the white line first. If it starts going off the table, it'll stop back up. But if it's on the table, it'll next check and see if there's something in front of it. If there is, it's going to go for it. And if there's not something in front of it, then it's going to just sit there and slowly turn. So there's the introduction to a basic program for a Sumo bot seek and destroy application. Of course, you could always get fancier with this and change things around to customize it, change sensors so that you're looking at touch sensors or something like that. But this should get you started if you don't have an idea of how to get a multi-switch program going.